So because of this, we've come up with something called a food web. And so I promise it's not as confusing as it looks. But so food webs actually show multiple food chains at once and how they interconnect. So we start down here with our producer, the grass, and we show, again, these arrows are showing how energy is flowing, all right? I don't want to hear in any like open response questions that grass is moving to the bug and bug is moving to the bird and the bird is moving to the owl. No, we're talking about energy. What would be good to say is that energy is flowing from the producer level to the to the primary consumer, to the secondary consumer, and to the tertiary consumer, or through. But just to play it safe, you might just want to talk about what eats what. That's also a good thing. So here down at the bottom we have the grass. So energy is flowing because this insect right here is eating the grass. So the insect eats the grass, and then energy flows from the grass to that insect. And so then the bird or that insect gets eaten by this bird, and so energy is flowing, continuing to flow to the bird. And then this little bird, RIP, gets eaten by this owl, and so energy is flowing from the bird to the owl. But wait, that's not the only food chain in this diagram. Let's take it back to the grass. So there are some other options. So here we have that grasshopper again. Remember, grasshoppers also eat grass. It's not like producers only have one consumer. Like, it's not like they're like, sorry, that's my consumer, like that's my bestie. No, they're all kind of friends with each other. So the grasshopper is going to eat the grass, and then the grasshopper is going to get eaten by the bird. And then again, that bird is going to get eaten by the owl. Or, did you know this? Mice also eat grass. The mouse can just eat grass on its own. So we would say that energy is flowing from the grass to the mouse. And then, oh, poor mouse, because you know what? The owl also enjoys eating mice. And so that energy is going to flow from the mouse to the owl when it gets eaten or preyed upon by this owl. But wait, that's not all. We go back to the grass over here, and so this is just showing, I know it's kind of like a nasty looking insect over here. It's called a grub. So you can just call it like the worm thing. I'm so unscientific sometimes, but you guys love it. Yeah, at least just lie to me if you don't. So this worm thing is gonna eat the grass, and so energy flows from the grass to the worm. And then it's just so nasty to look at. It's going to get eaten by this mouse over here, and so energy is going to flow from organism to organism. And then again, this mouse is going to get eaten by the owl. So this is just showing how all these food chains interconnect and work together, or fit together, because again, we as humans, we like to fit things in these perfect little boxes, but not everything works out that way. In fact, most things do not. There are rules, and then we always come up with exceptions to those rules. Okay, so next up, let's talk about something called a trophic pyramid. And so this is just it's a model to show how energy flows through an ecosystem. So kind of like in an image, in a diagram, if you will. Oh, sorry. Okay, so there are three types of trophic pyramids that we're going to talk about, three types of models. So the first type is an energy pyramid, and so these types of pyramids represent the energy available on each trophic level, and the levels always get smaller as you go up the pyramid. So remember the rule of 10. So I'm going to show you on the next page, I'm going to show you a diagram. It's going to literally be a triangle, right? And there's going to be levels showing up. You'd probably see, if you've ever thought of a food pyramid, that's kind of what we're showing now. I'm just teaching you some new words. Okay, so this type of pyramid is going to show energy available. So remember the rule of 10, that organisms only get 10% of the energy that they obtain from whatever organism they obtained it by, or for whatever the previous level obtained. So the amount of energy they're able to obtain is going to be less and less and less as they go up the pyramid. The second type of trophic pyramid is going to be called a numbers pyramid. And so this is going to just straight up represent how many producers are there, how many different types of organisms are considered producers, how many different types of organisms are considered consumers. are primary consumers? How many types of organisms are considered secondary consumers? How many types of organisms are considered tertiary consumers? So this is just straight up the number of organisms in each level. And since energy decreases as you go up the pyramid, fewer organisms can be supported. So that's why those animals at the top of the food chain, there are a lot less top of the food chain animals than there are, like, let's say, producers. Because as I'll show you on the next slide, the tertiary consumers do not get very much energy from other organisms. They really don't. They're hashtag struggling to make it. So obviously we're at the top of the food chain, but I want you to think about the sheer scale or volume of the volume of organisms on this planet. I want you to think about how many bugs there are. And then think about whether there are more bugs on this planet or more humans on this planet. Hopefully you can imagine there are a lot more bugs than there are us. And so that is because they support us. But once you get to the top of the food chain, there is not too much energy to go around. Because remember, the sun is the supplier of all energy on our planet, and so without the sun, we would not be here. But we're not able to get all that energy from the sun. Only the producers are, and they're hogging it for themselves. So yeah, when you get to the top of the food chain, fewer organisms can be supported. Okay, and then the third and final type of pyramid is a biomass pyramid, and so prefix bio means life, and mass refers to matter or like weight. So this is literally just the weight or the amount of matter, of the biological matter. So things that are alive. So it's the total mass of living matter at each trophic level. Okay. Almost there. Last but not least, I'm going to show you an example of a trophic pyramid. So here we have our 4 types of organisms we've been talking about this whole video. Down here we got the grass, then we got the grasshopper, then we got our mouse, and then at the very tip top we got our owl. So let's start off first and label our trophic level numbers. So at the bottom where grass is sitting, that would be considered level 1, and then level 2, level 3, and level 4. So these are, remember, trophic level numbers. So next up, we're going to label our trophic level names. Oh, and by the way, for you guys in your notes, I went ahead and I made some text boxes down here for you. So you're just going to click on them and you're going to drag them up and place them how they're being shown to you right now. Okay, so now we're going to label our trophic level names. So down here, our grass are going to be considered producers. And then in trophic level 2, the grasshopper would be considered the primary consumer. And then on trophic level 3, the mouse would be considered the secondary consumer. And then all the way at the top, trophic level 4, we have our tertiary consumer. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to label the percentage of energy available. So the rule of 10. Down here, the grass is getting 100%, is using 100% of the energy it obtained from the sun to fuel its processes. However, when you move up a trophic level and you go to the primary consumer level, so the primary consumers only obtain 10% of that original amount of energy that was obtained from the sun. They only get 10% of it. And then as you move up to the third trophic level, the mouse, you divide it by 10 again. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. And so the secondary consumers only get 1% of the energy available from the sun. So now you can start seeing why as you go up the pyramid that less organisms can be supported. There's just not enough energy to go around. And so then if you divide 1% by 10, you get 0.1%. So again, there are way less tertiary consumers or organisms that sit at the top of the food chain than there are, like, let's say, producers. There are I would think millions of different types of producers available, but only a handful of tertiary consumers. They only get 0.1% of that original energy that came from the sun. All right, and that is Unit 3, Energy Flow, Concept 3, Energy Flow through Ecosystems.